between President Biden's Deputy National Security Advisor, Jon Finer. Jon, thanks for joining us this morning. You just saw Ian's report right there. It says nowhere is safe in Gaza right now. What's your read on the situation in Gaza right now? How much damage has been done to the Hamas leadership? Has it come at an acceptable cost?
Well, George, obviously there has been a devastating toll on civilians in Gaza, on infrastructure in Gaza. But let's take a step back and discuss a bit why that is and how that came about. Obviously, there was a horrific attack on October 7th. Hamas fighters then retreated into the Gaza Strip, hid themselves among a civilian population, sometimes underground, underneath critical infrastructure and densely populated areas. Now, we have said that places a higher burden on the Israeli Defense Forces in the way that they prosecute that war. It doesn't diminish, though, their responsibility to distinguish between civilians and fighters. And we have raised that issue publicly. We've raised that issue quite directly with Israeli officials, and we're going to continue to hold them to the expectation that the war will be conducted according to international humanitarian law.
How about those pointed questions Ian panel ended with? Are the goals of the Israeli government achievable? And what does the day after look like?
I'll let the Israeli government speak to its own objectives. What I think we believe and feel strongly is that Gaza cannot and should not be allowed to be a platform from which horrific terrorist attacks can be conducted against Israel. And so to the extent that they are seeking to make that no longer possible, that is both a very legitimate and we believe an achievable goal. Beyond that, what comes on the day after, I think we've also started to speak to. We cannot go back to a pre-October 7th environment in Gaza, where it can threaten Israel in that way. But the president has also said we cannot go back to a pre-October mindset when it comes to Palestinian governance overall, including in the West Bank, including in Gaza. And that means resuming the urgent work of giving a political horizon to the Palestinian people, which to President Biden means a two-state solution.
Did Secretary Blinken make any progress on that with the Arab leaders yesterday and with Prime Minister Netanyahu? He didn't appear to.
Well, look, I think you focused understandably on areas in which there is still disagreement. A number of the Arab countries are calling for a ceasefire. Secretary Blinken spoke quite clearly to why we believe now is not the time for an overall ceasefire, although we have made clear that we would support and are advocating for humanitarian pauses to allow humanitarian aid to be distributed, to potentially facilitate the release of more hostages and to give some relief and to allow the Palestinian residents of Gaza to take a breath amid this heavy bombardment. But I think underneath that area of disagreement, there is actually a lot of alignment among the United States and our Arab partners on the fact that we cannot go back to a pre-October 7th mindset. None of them are particular supporters of Hamas. That is quite clear. And all of them, I think, are strong supporters of the need for a two-state solution, which is what Secretary Blinken and President Biden have also been calling for, and the need to resume that work.
What do we know about the situation with the hostages right now? There are some reports from Hamas that several dozen have been killed in the airstrikes.
So, George, we can't verify any of those reports. They are coming directly from Hamas, and we believe they should be taken with a grain of salt. But what we can say is this is obviously a very dangerous situation for anybody in Gaza, including the hostages who are being held there against their will. There are quiet, intensive negotiations going on behind the scenes involving a number of parties. We have not detailed all of the back and forth in those negotiations. They have been going on virtually since the day in which these hostages were taken. It is a huge priority for the president and for all of us to get as many of those hostages home, including, obviously, the American citizens who are held there as soon as possible. And we believe that is still possible, but that work is continuing and there is no agreement yet.
But do we have any independent information on the condition of the hostages and whether any have been killed?
We do not have any detailed information. As you know, we are not on the ground. The United States government, the United States military, not on the ground in Gaza. So it is very difficult to verify those claims. We obviously have deep concerns about the safety and well-being of Americans and others who are being held there.
The president has been under growing pressure from Democrats here at home to do more to end the fighting. We've seen protests as well. Probably the harshest is Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib. I'm going to show what she put up on Friday. She said Joe Biden supported the genocide of the Palestinian people. The American people won't forget Biden. Support a ceasefire now or don't count on us in 2024. Your response?
Look, we strongly disagree with some of that messaging and with some of the terms used to describe this conflict. But what I will say is we know that this is a conflict about which there are strong views on all sides, including in the United States, including, frankly, even within the United States, the Biden administration about the conduct of this conflict. We have seen some of that spill out into the public. We have seen strong comments made by members of Congress. We respect the fact that there are people who have deep personal ties to this conflict in a way that may be unusual in terms of recent world events. All that said, some of the characterizations and the terms used, we believe, have technical definitions, have certain historical resonance and weight, and that we do not accept their application to this particular war, even as we continue to raise our serious concerns about the toll that this is taking on civilian life and the need to do even more to protect it.
Finally, the president's request for aid to Israel and Ukraine and Taiwan and others, he appears to be the victim of a stalemate right now. House Republicans have passed aid to Israel tied to cuts in IRS enforcement. And we have their Republican leader, Steve Scalise, on the program next. What's the president's message to House Republicans?
I think the message is pretty clear, that it is not good for the United States, good for the region, or good for Israel to tie emergency assistance to Israel to what we consider to be essentially a partisan request for a way to offset that spending. We think that is basically without precedent in recent history, and we don't support it, and are urging members of our party and members of Congress from any party not to support it either.
Jon Finer, thanks very much.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.